felt it would give us the best access to the strongest possible group of senior insurance decision makers.
Insurtech Insights is a must-do conference, I think, for the network that is built here.
Hi, everybody. Delighted to have you this afternoon. We're all still hanging in there, day 2 after lunch.
That's great.
I'm Carlin Carnahan. I lead the insurance practice for Celent for North America. We're an advisory firm that conducts research and provides advice on technology and insurance. And I'm super excited about this particular session because AI, I mean, if you've been walking around these halls at all, like every single booth is about AI and Gen AI and agentic AI, and it's clearly the hot topic, but it could also be considered a shiny object. So we're going to spend some time today talking about how to keep it from being a shiny object. So let me tell you who we have, but I'm going to have them introduce themselves a little later. We have Sue Gribb, who heads up the technical claim side at MapFree. We have Yuval Man down at the end, who is the CEO and co-founder of DigitalOwl. And we have Dan Moore, who is the SVP and the head of what does CAO stand for?
Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, at CNA. But before we get into our topic, I want to just do a little bit of level setting on kind of what's going on in the industry around AI. And so let me start with a survey that we have done. And we've done it for 3 years in a row now, focusing on Gen AI. So if you look at where we're at, starting with the big blue bars, 40% of insurance companies say that they have already begun to roll out Gen AI solutions in production. And another 4% say that they are now scaling the Gen AI. 33% say that they're in proof of concept. Now just let me say that that is now, 75% of the industry that is doing something in production or in proof of concept with Gen AI. And when you look at how that has changed over the last 3 years, 2023, 8% had something, 2024, 28% had something, 2025, 44%. We're seeing this massive growth. Now, where are they using generative AI? Mostly still internally. 64% are using it in the IT organization, code development or creating test cases, synthetic testing data. We're seeing more and more using it in underwriting. Actually, what you're not seeing here, the font is wrong. The second most common usage, 47%, is being used internally by employees to do things like draft correspondence or to help them with other aspects. The 42% of underwriting, another 42% is claims. And so we're seeing the use of Gen AI all across the value chain, but much more heavily internally, not a lot yet being exposed externally to the customers. You see a little bit down there at the bottom. And so they're tackling different kinds of questions. In 2023, when we were talking to carriers about Gen AI, they were mostly saying, what is it? How do we use Gen AI? What are the use cases? Is this going to be like blockchain? Is it kind of really going to go away? And so how should I be thinking about it? And that's actually kind of where we're at today with agentic AI. But 2 years later, what we're hearing now is how do I scale this? Who should I partner with? Which tech solutions should I be using? How do I integrate it into my existing workflow? How do I make sure I'm going to actually generate value by scaling this? And show me some examples here. So the question set has changed dramatically. Now, when we think about AI, Gen AI, in my view, there are 4 chunks of things that carriers have to think about as they're working through the use of AI. The first thing is the data itself, right? Do I have enough data to be useful? Is my data clean? Can I get to the data? Can I extract the data? Do I need third-party data? There's a whole chunk of issues just around the data. The second set of issues is, what should I use it for? What question am I trying to solve? And do I do this myself, or do I hire a consultant, or hire a data scientist, or maybe some software vendor? The third chunk of questions is, how do I operationalize it? Now that I know that conditions look like this, we should behave like that, how do I get people to actually do it? And the last big chunk of stuff is governance. How do I use this responsibly? How do I keep my data clean? How do I keep my models tuned? So 4 chunks of things, and we're going to touch on a number of these. But let's get to the fun stuff, the interesting stuff. And let me start by having each of you introduce yourself briefly and tell us a little bit about where you're using AI. And Suzanne, let's start with you.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon, I'm Suzanne Gribb. I work at MapFree Insurance, the US subsidiary of a leading multinational company based in Madrid, Spain. We operate in over 30 countries, and here in the United States, we operate in 11 states. And I have oversight of primarily all of our liability claims lines of business, our SIU, our no-fault, our staff counsel operations, and our complex litigation. Some of the areas we're using AI already is fraud detection, including graph analytics, so our folks can see those relationships that they may not be able to see with the human eye alone. We're using it in social inflation strategy, which is something that I oversee, so large document management, litigation indicators, using for auto appraisals, and we're even dabbling in some coverage analysis.
Wow, interesting. Dan?
Excellent. I'm Dan Moore. I'm head of shared services in the CAO's office, which encompasses claims strategy, claims operations, claims transformation, as well as corporate shared services across the enterprise at CNA. CNA is a leading US P&C carrier focused on commercial and specialty providers, and we operate in the United States and have significant presence as well as in Canada and in Europe. And so kind of some of the areas where we're focused on using AI in our claims operations. One, identifying opportunities to augment claims handlers' expertise by identifying next best actions across portfolios of claims. And so we've done a lot of work there and deployed that. Secondly, as well, like was mentioned before, in the fraud space, how do we identify fraud patterns? How do we use that to combat fraud within the claims organization, or against the claims organization? And then thirdly, kind of how do we drive efficiency across the organization? Medical record summarization, key activities around creating efficiencies for our claim professionals so that they can take better actions on the information that's coming in across the group. And so those are some of the key ways we're using AI currently.
Great. Yuval?
Hey, Yuval Man. I'm co-founder and CEO of DigitalOwl. In the last 10 years, I've been studying and developing AI solutions specifically for insurance and legal related use cases, mainly medical record analysis from underwriting through claims and etc. And we are working closely with many of our partners and clients here in the US, in Canada, and in Australia on developing the future of automation with AI, moving beyond summarization into actually automate multiple tasks within the process of underwriting and claim adjustment.
Great. Okay, let's get into the good stuff now. Dan, I'm going to start with you. CNA is an enormous company with tons of data and lots of resources. And so there are a lot of options to how you could be addressing AI. Tell us a little bit about how you think about the strategies for building AI. Are you building it yourself? Are you partnering? There's 10,000 vendors out there that would love to sell you something. I can tell by the claw marks on your back. But how do you think about when to build, when to buy, and what role does this play in your implementation strategy?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I think the first place I would start is just by our overarching thesis, which is around we're looking for solutions that help us to improve the effectiveness of claims decisions, better quality decisions, whether that's helping the fullness of our organization operate at that top quartile performance basis, or making sure that each successive decision that we make is accretive to the total outcome of the portfolio. And so that's a key place for us, better decision making, better quality of choices. The second piece is around efficiency and how do we drive the most efficiency that we possibly can out of the organization and really be able to harness that. And so those are really two different kinds of use cases. And so what we find is we have a kind of a three-pronged approach to build, buy, and partner. And we recognize that, and there's, we think of it a little bit as a triangle. We may build and partner at the same time. We may buy and partner. We may, or may just do one of the, like a build or a buy only. And there we're really thinking about where do we have like specific, if we need to have strong controls over the data and over kind of the models themselves, we may keep that in-house, and that may be a build space, right? Another where we're thinking about build is when we're just making call-outs to generic, like a ChatGPT or a Gemini model. If we're just making generic API calls out and pulling data back, that's a clear build scenario. There's other scenarios, though, where, for example, we need people who have built and trained models that are experts on medical data, for example. And there we recognize that that's an opportunity to leverage the scale that the industry's already built up on that front to create a partnership and buy some of those solutions. And so those are some of the ways that we're thinking about kind of that build by partner arrangement in terms of sourcing and solving for the AI opportunity in front of us.
And how do you think about the startups? I mean, you're a big established company, so you probably have a lot of risk controls. And if they're a startup out there, what would they have to do to gain the attention of a company like CNA to be even on the consideration?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, right? I mean, one of the principles that we do leverage, of course, is where we have existing ecosystem partners. We leverage those very heavily, and so that's a key opportunity. We've also done a lot of interesting kind of partner build pilots where we've used some of our expertise in insurance and a partner's expertise in AI to build a solution and test that out. And when we do those kinds of activities, we're looking really for somebody who can create something that isn't in the marketplace today. So those are some of the ways we think about that.
Yeah. So Yuval, I want to pivot just a little bit because we're talking about implementation. And a lot of times when we're thinking about implementing AI, we think about it as automating tasks away so that human beings don't have to do them. That isn't always the responsible way of using AI. Certain types of AI are very good at decisioning, and certain types of AI are very good at summarization, but maybe not the decisioning. Can you chat a little bit about this idea of the human in the middle? When does it make sense? When doesn't it make sense? And how do you think about the role of human beings in this world that is increasingly driven by AI?
So one day, and we can argue if it's gonna be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but one day we're gonna have an AI that is able to do everything. We're gonna have an AI that will file claims or life application automatically, and another AI will respond to it, and they're gonna talk to each other and make some decision. We will all be sitting in the beach drinking Mai Tai. One day. By the way, this is why I always use please and thank you when I use chat AI, because if it's gonna take over the world, I want them to like it.
Be nice to them now so they're nice to you later.
But until that happens, we still need to have human in the loop. And I think there are three main principles here. It's the transparency, accountability, and the ability to go deeper. And I think the right AI tools, especially for insurance, is one that are designed for human to be involved. And transparency in a sense that you want the user to be able very easily to see the evidence or the source document of why the AI spit out whatever it spit out. And it's like avoiding a black box. You don't want to have an output that you don't know how did it happen. And this is also take us to accountability in a sense that we use AI today to do more than just data point extraction, right? They're doing some analysis, but we want to make sure that we understand the logic behind this analysis and what was the logic the AI used in order to get to the decision he got into. And you got to have a human there in the loop to validate and confirm it, and even to develop those logic behind the scene. And the last thing, and I think it's the most interesting one, is we need to have human in the loop because they can go deeper. And there is a reason why chat is one of the most usable form of AI. Now you can use AI to automate process like claim adjustment or analysis of a claim. But as you all know, each claim is like a unique snowflake. This is like a different scenario, different case. And you need to have human that will be able to use the chat to ask this additional question, to take it further and to inquire more and to go deeper. Now use the AI to answer the question, but the human in the loop need to manage what is being asked in order to get the actual decision. Now one day it will be automatic with agent and general AI and everything, but today I think a successful product that has accuracy, good accuracy and good ROI still need to have a human in the loop, and it needs to be developed for underwriters and claim experts.
Yeah. So I want to dig into this human interaction a little bit more, and Sue, with you, because claims is an area that a human being touches every claim. Claims is an area that has always been dependent on individuals with deep expertise. And so as you have been operationalizing AI, what have you seen as the biggest hurdles? Are people nervous that they're going to lose their job? How do you think about bringing the AI in alongside the claims adjusters?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I have a few colleagues in the room, so disclaimer is these are my views, and only my views. But you know, the biggest hurdles for me really is the whole balance of run versus transforming the business. And you know, I do believe it's my obligation to be the transformational leader of our team. But at the same time, I'm responsible for the run, and if we don't have good results, it's hard to transform and it's hard to dedicate resources to AI. So we have those competing resources, right? Within the department, within the other departments, the company, you know, everybody competing for resources, for funding, for IT. It's prioritizing those POCs we want to do and what should we go after first. It's selecting the right business partners, and you know, it's funny because you know, a lot of folks will say, all you have to do is get me those documents, or all I need is the data. And for me, that's not always an easy thing to do. It's, you know, I'm sure you could say the same thing, right? And it's the cost-benefit analysis, not just what it looks like, but how we're going to deliver on it, you know, what those metrics are going to be to prove the value, to prove the success, and who's going to own that. You know, and it should be our claim analytics team that can do that reporting and show me those metrics and that they're delivering on the promise that I've given in this cost-benefit analysis. But those resources are stretched too, and it seems like in the claims world, we never retire a report, we only add reports. So that's a big deal. And you know, but we focus on the decisions have to be data-driven, and they have to add business value. And if I can't answer those two questions, then I'm not getting over that hurdle.
Yeah, have you had to do much work in reskilling or upskilling your staff as you've begun bringing the AI into the workflow?
Not so much yet, because a lot of the stuff we've implemented is related to those tasks, that busy work. So it's been more enriching for our team than reskilling. Because it's taking away maybe some of the things they didn't like to do. But it does concern me with newer employees because they often learned from those less skilled tasks. So we've had to, you know, look at our workflows and revamp some of our training programs. And I think that's where the human in the loop is also an opportunity, not just for like AI governance component, but for some of the learnings that we have with our team.
Yeah. So Dan, using AI, using new sources of data, introduces a number of concerns for an organization, right? You can be worried about bias, you can be worried about inaccuracy. Generative AI, I always joke, it's not traceable, it's not repeatable, and it lies. But other than that, it's a really great tool, right? And so clearly you have to have a greater sense of governance and responsible governance. So what does responsible AI governance look like at your organization? And how do you balance this need for trying out all these new things with regulatory compliance and being fair and unbiased and all of those other important aspects?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I think first and foremost, in a highly regulated industry like insurance that is dealing with lots of PII and that kind of information, you have a high obligation for ensuring that your governance is strong, right? And so the risk of having poor governance and you know, is greater than just reputational risk, fines, penalties, et cetera. It can be quite large. And so for us, you know, we've established several governance committees that are multidisciplinary in nature, that provide various sets of rules and reviews to help ensure that we're proceeding in an orderly and coordinated fashion, and that it's not that it's coordinated with our infosec security apparatus, with some of our business teams, with some of the data science teams, et cetera. And so all that comes together in those governance committees. And ultimately, we require folks to help show where are we doing bias testing, how are we making sure that these tests are in fact being governed in the way we expect. And then we also have a great promotion process, right? So we have a sandbox where we'll test those activities out. They're not actually out in production, so we can take a little bit greater risk because it's still ring-fenced. We're not actually making decisions or unalterable things in that, but we are testing out the capability. And by so doing, it allows for us to test, learn, but also then decide what we want to promote forward into a production environment.
Yeah, now some companies allow employees to have complete unfettered access to any kind of open source generative AI tool. Others limit that to only a few people with legitimate uses or the proper controls. Others control by saying you can only use certain structured prompts. You can't ask whatever you want. How do you think about the risks of open AI or open usage versus structured usage? How do you control for that?
So we kind of have, at least in the claims organization, kind of two ways we think about this. We think about there's a series of AI capabilities that we consider to be enterprise and need to be controlled, right? And then we have a series of activities that we think are what we call desk side AI capabilities, right? And so things that people can use to enhance their daily activities, processes at their desk. And sometimes there's potential crossover. At the desk side, we are constrained to an enterprise version of the AI, so it can't get out in the world. We're not using just some open chat GTP for the world. We're constrained within our organization. But what it allows for us to do is then allows for people to do things like summarize my email. That's something we don't need to govern at the enterprise level, as long as we have a controlled AI capability at the desktop. They can do that, right? But when we start saying, please summarize this, 2,000-page medical document, I don't want to put that into the same generic LLM that doesn't have any training on medical models. It's moving information outside of systems of record, all of those kinds of things. So we kind of think about it in those two prongs, and we do a lot of education of helping people understand where should they be operating in one versus the other sphere.
Yeah, so same thing for you. I mean, claims has tons of confidential medical information. Is it a free-for-all? Can people use any tool they want? Or I mean, it seems like this is something that would really benefit from a thoughtful approach. So how do you think about handling the open usage of the
Yeah, we're very, very much controlled. We this year started an AI governance committee. All of our projects, that's one of the first steps. They go through the committee. We do have Microsoft Copilot that our teams are able to use, but it's very much controlled, and I think it has to be.
Yeah. So let's take a little look towards the future. Yuval, your company is on the kind of the cutting edge of AI and now agentic AI, and I'm not sure everybody knows what agentic really is or what the potential could be. And so how do you think about what is actually achievable versus what's aspirational, right? There's a ton of potential use cases, and there's a ton of vendors out there with a million ideas, but when you look at the issues of feasibility, things like accuracy come up, things like scale come up, those might get in the way of actually achieving the kind of benefits of AI and Gen AI and agentic. How do you think about this?
So we have a box we're playing in it, right? There's a spectrum, manual to automation, right? And there's a lot of steps through the way. Now, I don't know if everyone remembers because everything moves so fast, but 2 years ago we used NLP, and entity extraction or data extraction, there are multiple names out there, to extract codes and etc. And the main usage of AI in the medical record analysis world was about creating a list, a summary, extracting list of data points. And that was extremely helpful, by the way. Instead of reading 500 pages, I can read 50 pages with only the data point that I want to read. But then Gen AI enter, and Agent AI entered into the game, and now we can have more context and more information, and extract more data points. But I think the magic was moving beyond summarization into the world of what we call insights. Now, insight, it sounds like a buzzword, but it's actually more than that. So imagine a summary will be a list of all medication and dosage in the last 12 months of an applicant, for example, but an insight will be this applicant has increased his dosage for whatever, depression medication in the last 12 months. And that's one step toward automation from just summarizing the data. Or a summary will be a list of all encounters with a provider for a claimant, but an insight will be the claimant is not compliant with the treatment, or the treatment is working well. And that's moving beyond summaries and collecting data point into the world of, yeah, I've analyzed those data points together and I created an insight for you so you can take action out of it. And probably the next step will be to automate that action or that decision. It's way easier to measure accuracy with insight rather with data points, because there's no 100%. I know you will walk out there. We should play a drinking game. Every time you see a booth with AI, take a shot. Let's see how long it lasts.
You won't make it on the first aisle.
But ask them about their accuracy, and you will get great numbers, because we use the numbers too, 97%, 98%, and etc. But in real world, it means nothing, because there's no 100%. Everyone understands it. The question is, all right, these two mistakes I had in this case, are they affecting my decision or not, right? That's eventually the game. Yeah. Same with human, by the way. Human don't have 100% accuracy analyzing records as well. With insight, you're getting closer to the decision, and the insight will be the depression here is severe, or the lumbar issue in this claim is severe, and it's going to be very expensive. Now you can take all of those insights and say, at the end of the day, was it right or not on the case level, on the claim level, or on the underwriting level? And this is where you can get closer to the decision-making accuracy. Yeah. Has the AI given me the same, at least the same result as a human would have given to me? And that's very meaningful, because now carriers and users can actually in-house very easily measure the accuracy and the ROI of the tool itself.
Yeah, of course, it implies that the underlying data that you have to work with is accurate to begin with, right? I mean, that's the challenge for many companies themselves, right? And one of the things we hear regularly is carriers who are buying third-party data are always concerned about the cost versus the accuracy versus the fill rate. And so I think that there's probably still room for improvement in those areas before we can get the true results. And Dan, I'm curious, how do you think about the ROI of AI initiatives, given some of the costs involved with assuring accuracy of data?
Yeah, I mean, so I think go back to kind of the two-pronged lens that we were using, efficiency and effectiveness. It's very easy to measure the efficiency, right? I've been able to take X cost out of the process, and so that's pretty straightforward. A little more challenging is when we start making enhanced quality decisions and trying to understand what is the relative value of moving our bottom, 50% of our bottom decision makers up to a top quartile decision-making capability by using AI. That's much harder to do, but we can recognize when we think about claims leakage, when we think about claims loss cost trends, all of those things start to come in. You talked about social inflation, tort abuse, right? Where are we mitigating some of those and identifying wins on those? Those are very easy ways to quantify some of the ROI.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about change management. What kind of initiatives or strategies have worked inside your organization to get the internal buy-in? Because these initiatives will all change, will all fail if people don't use them and do them.
Yeah, what's really made a difference for us, and it sounds sort of simple, but we created last year this claim excellence model, and it's a cross-discipline team, leaders, all of our senior claim leaders, we have advanced analytics, we have our AI governance, we have our IT resources dedicated to claims, we have our business process management group, we have 8 programs, one of mine being the social inflation, with a whole bunch of projects under each one, but we all sit around the table and we come to an agreement on what we're going to prioritize and what's going to get the resources, and it's really proved effective for us. And then we use the proof of concepts, the pilots, with people doing the job, getting the buy-in. They get to say yes or no and give feedback on a project.
That's great. We've got only about a minute left, so I have one last question for each of you, which is, what is one AI use case that you're the most excited about scaling in the next 12 to 18 months? And Yuval, let's start with you.
Most exciting? Oh my
Most
God,
excited.
I need to pick. I think the most exciting use case will be the ability to fully automate a bigger chunk of claim process and the underwriting process to get to the place where you can actually have way more cases running through this green lane that is fully automatic.
Great. Dan?
It's probably one that we're working on right now, which is around using it to help be a negotiation negotiate counteroffer, offer capability to improve the outcomes of negotiations. We're pretty excited about what that's potential
Very
is.
cool. And Sue?
I'm going to sound like a nerd. This isn't going to be so exciting for everybody, but mine, with the social inflation strategy, would be identifying injury claims earlier. Only about 20% of our injury claims are identified at first notice of loss, and it takes up to 60 days, and that's too late.
Yeah. Well, I could have spent another half hour here talking to you guys, but we are actually out of time. So I hope that you'll all join me in thanking Yuval and Dan and Sue for sharing their insights.